Hello and welcome to the KLAS Best in Class Insight Series. My name is Emily Paxman. I'm the Vice President of Customer Experience Improvement, and I'm joined here today by our Senior Research Director over Population Health Management and Value-Based Care Consulting. Welcome, Bradley.
Thank you, Emily. Wonderful to be here today.
Well, I'm really excited to get to meet with you today to talk about Pop Health. Pop Health has been a really fun space for us to watch here at KLAS over the last few years, starting in 2016, where we tried to answer the question, what is population health? Because it was so ill-defined, all the way to today where we have an established framework and we've seen a lot of exciting movement. Maybe I'll jump off there. I've got a question I'd love to get your take on. I've noticed a lot of changes in the pop health market. From your seat, working with providers and vendors, what are the biggest things that you think have changed from last year to this year in population health management technology?
Well, that's a good question, Emily. So one of the things that we've been seeing over the last couple of years is a deeper adoption into data, both from the aggregation side of the house as well as the analytics side of the house. And now we're seeing more and more, I'll call it better analytics happening out there. So there's, the AI and machine learning buzzwords are 100% out there, but we're actually seeing some great analytics that is delivering insights to our provider friends so that they can make better decisions. Now, the other thing that we're seeing is some deeper adoption of the other pillars, such as care management and getting things in front of the providers. So that clinician engagement pillar, we're seeing more adoption of that, and not just with the EHR vendors, but across all the PHM vendors. So it's been really exciting to see that there's a lot of change happening and some deeper adoption, because this is really pushing us into the future.
As a patient, I'm always glad to hear that that's the case. One of the changes I know we had expected to see at KLAS was a significant consolidation of the market. We thought, well, this is a fractured market, there's lots of players, and over the years, if it follows the trends of other markets, we'll see a lot of these players either get bought up or go away. How has that ended up actually taking place or not taking place?
So there's been some market consolidation, not as much as we initially expected. So one of the interesting things has been that there is still a strong place for best-of-breed vendors out there. And that's specific for that data aggregation and analytics piece of the market. And the aggregation piece, we've just discovered that it's hard. And so because of that, there's a big gap to be filled there of there's all of these different EHRs that I have to bring their data together. So on the clinical side of the house, that's hard. And then you add in the complexity of, hey, we need to bring in some claims data as well, and then marry these up so that Emily Paxman and Emily Paxman actually match up to be the same person.
You mentioned the best of breed players and the EMR vendors in there. I'm curious to know, if we look at this year's Best in Class winner, in some spaces we've seen EMR vendors come in and really clean house. What does that look like in population health management? Are we still seeing best of breed players outperforming overall, or has there been a shift?
Yeah, no, the best of breed players still really hold strong at the top there. And the thing that happens there is that the EHR vendors, they specialize in their own data, right? They do really well. Epic does great with Epic data, NextGen does great with NextGen data, right? And so on and so forth down the list. When it comes to an ACO or a clinically integrated network, or somewhere where you're bringing in more than just that particular EHR, that's where we see the best of breed vendors shine. And so the EHR vendors are making strides in that area, but they're just not there yet.
So the Best in Class winner for this year was a best of breed player. It was Health EC. What is it that you're hearing from providers that makes them such a standout performer?
So a couple of things that I hear from them is they bring a lot of expertise to the table, where they're like, oh yeah, we've done this before, we know what to do, and they can help their clients understand the rules, the regulations, and how to make sense of all of their data. So they have a really strong expertise footprint, I guess you can call it. Now, one of the interesting things is that now Dr. Seth, he'd been a long-standing player at Health EC. He recently left the company. So that's something that I don't know if the market is scared about, but we'll see how that plays out for Health EC over the next couple of years. But they've got some great customers who love them, and I think we'll continue to see them be a strong player.
Now, one thing I'm really curious to ask about, I do a lot of analysis here at KLAS, so I get to look at scores over time. And one of the things that I've noticed, and I haven't necessarily done all the counting here, so I'm curious to know if this is true or not, is it looks like population health scores overall for the market have gone down. Is that what you're seeing as well?
Yes, that's definitely something that we've seen, and it's been interesting to watch. Now, my thought on why this is happening is COVID, believe it or not. So during COVID, it was, okay, everything is just kind of on hold right now. And so value-based contracts were kind of, we don't know what we're going to do with this. And there was a lot of leeway given to the vendors because you can't do trainings on site. You can't have people on site. You can't do anything on site because of COVID. Right? So that factors into it a little bit more. And so expectations were, okay, we aren't going to get the same level of in-person or training or whatever it is. And so because of that, there's just a lot of resetting of expectations. And now that we've seen a lot of vaccinations happen, and it's almost like the industry has said, okay, COVID is going to be part of life going forward, but we're not in crisis mode about it anymore. Now our expectations are we need to get back to business. We need to get back to normal. We need to move forward with value-based care, and we really need our vendors to step up to the plate.
One of the other things I'm hearing you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is, you mentioned expectations there specifically. It seems like there's just a changing expectation for the vendors to begin with. Before it was, great, you can bring all these EMR vendors together and get the data we need. But now, like you mentioned, claims data and other types of data there, the expectation, the bar for what a vendor needs to be able to do has also gone up. And it seems like that might be a contributing factor as well.
Yeah, that's definitely a contributing factor. So the bar of what needs to be done, so you can just think of it as a gradually escalating line. Mm-hmm. And so the bar has continued to increase of what needs to be done by a vendor in order to get that very, we'll call it high-performing experience.
So we shouldn't be alarmed by any of the precipitous score drops. What we are seeing is rather just a shift in the way that the industry overall is expecting and using their vendors.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's totally right.
So that theme of having expertise, as I talk to providers who are making population health purchases, that's one of the things I keep hearing again and again is, yes, you can have great technology. Yes, you can have all the different pillars of pop health capabilities, but it's your ability to really understand patient populations, best practices, how to manage that data, that expertise. I hear more about that as a key decision factor in population health than just about any other software space that I've been here working with during my time here at KLAS.
Mm-hmm. Well, population health it's an amalgamation of so many different parts of the organization, right? Because you have your EHR data, you have your claims data, you have data from your financial system, you have data from your operations, and you're trying to bring all of that together and say, how can we best help our patients? And who are the ones that we can have the biggest impact on if we work with them? And how do we make sure that we have the right resources from our care management team and the right resources in front of our doctors and the right resources for our executives so that we're all making these great decisions together? And then you throw in the complications of value-based contracts and the different kinds of value-based contracts, and then it just becomes even more complicated. And now you're talking about a fundamental shift in business model for the organization, and it just becomes really messy really fast. And so a very important trait of a vendor is someone who can help guide you through parts of that process. And that's why expertise is so important in the pop health space.
Well, thank you for sharing that insight. I think that's helpful to not only understand best-in-class results for this year, but also I think this is the type of information that I hope providers will use as they go out and they pick a vendor to partner with. Yes, look at the capabilities, but somebody who can do exactly what you just described. You can, if you are interested in learning more about how the vendors perform in these areas, all KLAS data is free for any healthcare provider to access. So you can go look at HealthEC, some other players in the market as well, learn about the key differentiators, free customer commentary at KLASresearch.com. So I hope you enjoy that data, and I really enjoyed personally getting some time in the studio with you, Bradley. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Emily. Great to be here with you.